3, 2, 1, go. So in volume 21 of Mushoku Tensei, this is the volume that really made me quite angry, but for the right reasons. Because of the build-up with Geese and all the kind of little subtle hints, and I kind of twigged pretty early on when they started throwing some of the hints out, particularly that one extra chapter where you kind of knew who they were referring to, where it was basically the man god in Geese's dreams. That was when I kind of realized that Geese clearly had a connection with the man god and him aligning himself with the man god. But the way he goes about it and how he talks to Rudy and basically almost looks down on like, how dare you question the man god, how dare you have your own free will, and this whole idea of, oh, you're a traitor to the man god, it really shows just how Geese has very much been manipulated. But you got to realize that the man god has a lot of power and influence, and he's very manipulative in the way he tones himself, and that is something that I've spoken about multiple times in other videos and on streams and stuff, and with Ed as well, about the manipulation that the man god has, and also just the fact that he doesn't have that same influence as what he has on other people that he does on Rudy, because Rudy, at least in my opinion, is a reincarnation, so there might be some immunity there with some of the things that the man god has, that influence, that power to manipulate people. The man god really has Geese wrapped around his finger, and right off the bat that Geese is kind of bad-mouthing Rudy, has done something like, for example, taking Zenith and took her to the mother, and now the mother's doing her own thing. But at the same time, in the previous volume, I really did not like the grandmother. Like, the grandmother was just like, ooh, you really, really hate the grandmother. And so a basic summary for those that want to know or haven't read the light novel, want a bit of a quick summary, is that basically Rudy has gone to the city due to a letter basically taking Zenith to the grandmother, and things don't go well. The grandmother is very prickly, very difficult to deal with, and it turns very hostile between Rudy and her. And so Rudy basically takes Zenith, goes back to Cliff's place, and Geese ends up rocking up at the right place at the right time when no one's really there, and then ends up taking Zenith for a stroll, which then ends up leading Zenith in the hands of the grandmother, and Rudy is just not happy with this. But then you also get a perspective of the grandmother, and that's where you really understand the nature of what the grandmother was trying to do was noble in her heart, but was also very broken as well. And I think Zenith knew that deep down inside, and that's why Zenith did what she did at the end of the book of volume, where she basically kind of slapped people, really kind of shook everyone up, and then it allowed for the truth to come out about what happened, which was basically the grandmother had to make some very hard choices. She did her own research into trying to find a way to cure Zenith, and she read some stuff about another individual that had a curse, a certain elf, and believed that maybe if Zenith found a partner and got it on, maybe that would fix the problem. Not realizing that that is a different situation and it would not have resolved it, but just the way the grandmother went about it, it was basically, it was kind of scummy from an outside perspective, but from her perspective it was a necessity to try and get her daughter back. But it wasn't pretty, and she knew what she was doing was pretty horrendous, but at the same time she felt compelled to do it due to her obligations. It's just one of those where you still are disappointed in her behavior, but you understand it at the same time. Like, you're like, okay, I get why you made those decisions. I don't agree with them, but I understand why they've made the decisions that they've made. And then when all the negotiations and everything, and everyone had to finally sit down and talk things through, they all tried to sort of throw her under the bus and be like, okay, we're just going to throw all the blame on her. It was nice that Zenith kind of stepped in, and I mean, again, Zenith is impaired, so she can't really speak or do anything major, but she kind of steps in the way, kind of interferes in the way that she best can with the impairments that she has. And so it allows that moment of, okay, maybe something's happened, maybe we need to talk more further and negotiate things rather than throw one person under the bus. It allows those moments. So very much it's not pretty. I get what she was trying to do, but at the same time she even had some respect for Rudy as well, and just that back and forth if there was more communication, Rudy could have been like, oh yeah, I know who that person is that you've done the research on. And that's the thing, if the grandmother just communicated more clearly, things would have turned out far, far, far more different. But what really caught me off guard was how the negotiations went at the beginning. So basically Rudy is really cross. He's trying to get his mother back, and I would say the zealous group of knights have basically entrapped him, and they're trying to basically imprison. And it's really messed up the way they're like, oh yeah, we're going to cut off your hands and then wrap them up in like anti-mana stuff so you can never use magic again, and you're basically crippled. You're basically just, oh well, you've got your wives and all that, you'll just never have any arms, and that's that. And it's like, really? That's like torture. That's like the most horrible thing you can do. But Rudy, of course, had some plans. He had his armor suit there, so he definitely threw them back a fair bit and ended up winning that situation. And then, of course, he used the other blessed child that was there, which is a major part of the story as well. Her ability to kind of peer into the people's eyes and kind of see a lot of... It's not so much she can specifically look for things about like secrets or stuff. It's more like she can kind of get a glimpse into their past and stuff like that if it's in their mind. Like, there is a way to kind of resist it, but at the same time it's like, she can kind of peer into the truth. I really like how that works because there's strengths and weaknesses in her curse, and then she also has a connection with Eris as well, which is the extra chapter that happened way early on in the story, where Eris ended up rescuing her from some bad individuals, and that's how their relationship got together, which is an extra chapter as well. There's an extra chapter with her and Eris, which was really cute, her training and everything. And then there's 2 extra chapters, which is the monkey, as they call it, which is Geese, him finally looking for some recruitments to finally take Rudy down. And the reason being is because the whole negotiations where they tried to ambush Rudy was Geese using that as an advantage to learn as much as he could about what Rudy's capabilities are, what his abilities are, what happens if he gets into a bad moment. Like, he gave some intel on them and been like, hey, this is what Rudy is capable of, this is how you defeat Rudy, and then tried to use that as a way to force Rudy to then further push himself, to use all his cards, show them all, which then gave Geese enough information to go out and look for the right people and the right tools to take Rudy down in the name of the man god, because the man god wants that done. And then there's the extra chapter, which is to do with the bodyguard for the blessed child, who is also related to Rudy, which is also in the earlier chapters as well, where she is looking for a partner, and it's kind of, she's the daughter of the grandmother. So yeah, the grandmother for Rudy, the daughter to her. There's the extra chapter about her trying to find a partner, and she's the one that's kind of running the whole little group with the blessed child. I almost would call it a cult, or like a fan group, a little bit of a mixture. It's like the Sims, the cult, kind of, it's a bit of a crazy mix of these people that are really in love with this blessed child. But there's just so much to do with the man god, his objectives, how Geese is now one of the major pawns on the chessboard that is now working with the man god. But there's this idea that at least 3 people the man god can be in direct contact with, so there's some limits to what the man god can do, and I'm kind of interested to see who these other characters are, because clearly Geese is not just going to stop with one person. He's going to clearly recruit a group of people to try and take Rudy down, because Rudy's got his own group of people as well. I mean, he's got Eris, he's got Cliff, he's got Xanabo, he's got the mecha suit, he's also got Orsted as well. He's got a group of people, and I'm sure Rudy can make new friends as well. So Rudy will find more people to work with, build his own skills up, build other people's skills up, and so Geese has got to counter that. So it's basically Geese needs to go out and not just find certain talented individuals or just one, but he needs to find a group of them and then equip themselves appropriately to try and take Rudy down. So this is where the real fun begins. This is what I would say is the end game for this particular major, at least how I see it, this major arc for Rudius's journey, because if he can defeat this group, then the man god should at least be somewhat beaten back for the time being. So very excited for volume 22 of the light novels. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think of this volume and the relationship between Rudy, the grandmother, and then also Geese is finally coming out with the letter sent to Rudy, basically calling him a traitor and calling him out and saying, you know, you're horrible, for how dare you ever question the man god. And also you learn a lot about Geese's backstory as well, his gambling problems, him losing the village, and just how the man god has messed him up pretty badly, done some pretty horrible things to Geese, but Geese is, at the end of the day, almost thanks the man god for it, because he's gotten some good things out of it and some bad things, and the manipulation. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic. Again, if you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.